And so I need time. Doesn't matter day or night. I need giving you light and love. We're coming on without a doubt. There's nothing you can't talk about. You're ready to start the show. You're always starting and you know we're gonna talk. Ordinary people and extraordinary God. Check the reference in Ephesians 5. We walking in the light. And we're living in love. You know what's Shani, we gonna keep it intact. Cause every Monday got it coming. Yeah, we coming right back. So act like you know we get it on and popping at the Shiny Show. You can talk to Shani anytime. It doesn't matter day or night. Shani, giving you light and love. We're coming on without a doubt. There's nothing you can't talk about with Shani. Welcome to another episode of the Sharing with Shani Show. I am your host, Shani. I got Mika in the building. Mika, what's good?
Life
is good. I like your head wrap.
Thank you.
And your background.
I
wish you do. Like, and I wish my desk was that clean.
Yeah.
I got sticky notes, reminders. Like, right. Then I wouldn't find anything. Oh, goodness gracious. My week was so my week started someone like this kind of like in between 10-day travel. So I left last Wednesday to Charlotte for the Womenist Leadership Conference, which was something that I didn't really know. I had never been to a womanist conference, but womanist theology took shape in 1983, so it's like 40 years old. And the term was coined by Reverend Dr. Katie Geneva Cannon, who took the term womanist from Alice Walker. And it's grown into this basically, interpretation of scripture and through a Black woman's lens, through the eye and the experience of Black women. And so it was really, if you follow me on Facebook, I get this all the time. You know a lot of white people. And I'm just like,
that's funny.
It's really funny. And so I get that a lot. And so it was really good to just be with people that look like you, right? That want the same things you want, that are working towards liberation for all, that just have an experience that sometimes you can't always, you're too tired to having to explain your experience, and you don't have to explain the joke or explain the look that you just gave. It's just automatic. We have one thing about Black women, we have a way to communicate like no other, right?
Unspoken language, absolutely. It's an unspoken language.
For sure. And so I appreciated that time together. So I'm back for I had a meeting about an hour and a half ago, and I already had my out of office because I didn't have time to make 2 out of offices. So I'm like, let me put this out of office on, and it's going to carry me through next Sunday, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm in town for another 12 hours. And then I head to Kansas City and then Iowa, child.
So are you on a book tour? Are you speaking? Like, what are you doing during this travel?
A little bit of both, not an official book tour, but I'm gonna get, somehow I'm gonna weave I'm gonna weave it in, right? But I do speak on a panel on Saturday in Iowa, and I will, of course, plug the book, and I got some in my bag. So yeah.
What's in Iowa? Who is in Iowa?
So a really good friend, a really good pastor friend. So one of the things that I typically don't, and I don't have to say the name, so not like I'm not going against any of my like contracts or anything, but I don't share people that I coach, right? I don't say I'm coaching you, I'm putting you on blast, especially when I'm doing anti-racism coaching. I just don't, any type of coaching, I'm not, if they want to share that I am their coach, by all means, but I'm not going to do that, right? And so, but this gentleman felt, I don't think the reason why I won't share the name is because I don't remember if he's shared or tagged me on social media. And since we're live streaming on Facebook, I'll just keep it like that. Understood. But he has shared like with his congregation that, he took this anti-racism class 3 years ago and I was his coach, and he is in a new call and wants me to be part of his installation. And that's the church that I'm doing the workshop with, doing anti-racism work with compassion and justice and why it's biblical. And so he is in Iowa and so I'm headed to Iowa. Gotcha. I'm excited though. A little nervous, but of course excited at the same time. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Speaking of tagging, tag me in the show tonight, please.
Yes, I am doing that right now.
Thank you.
So how was your week?
Long. And maybe a little bit frustrating. Was trying to submit for about maybe 2 weeks. Submit my application for the PhD program. And there's a glitch on their website. There's a drop-down box that you have to select from in order to move to the next part of the process, and nothing comes down when nothing shows up, when you hit that little upside down carrot. And I have called and left messages and emailed the webmaster, all the contact us, tech help, all the things. Besides, going up there, I've done everything. And so a little annoyed with that, and really trying to just be really open about why it's happening. Having this conversation with someone, and they were just like, everything doesn't have to be that deep. And I was like, yep. Yeah, we get it. We're not speaking the same language, so I guess you really feel that way. It's not about it being deep, but yes, I absolutely do believe that, when things are supposed to line up, what's for you will line up and be fine. And not saying that because there is a glitch that is not for me, but understanding, the just wanting God to always be moving first and me following him. When things like this happen, it is like okay, got it, not worried about it. But then, the next, I guess the response to that now is like, okay, well, if I missed it, then it wasn't for me, because everything was in place and completed and ready to, click the button. But if it does open up and I get in, obviously it's, so, but being open to, only moving when God tells you to move, is when things like this happen, I'm no longer freaking out about it. Like, oh my goodness, it's late. And now I'm not priority. I'm going to be at the bottom of the list. I'm not going into that kind of tailspin of a chain reaction. And so this feels nice. And I will be completely transparent and say, I do have to continually remind myself that I'm waiting, right? Like I have to say, it's okay. They didn't answer, I give myself a deadline. But, like if I don't hear anything, if I don't see an email, maybe we go up there, try to talk to somebody, see where we can go from there.
Right.
Do the due diligence, and that's it. That's all I can do, right? Can't do anything else. And but I'd be lying if I tell you I'm not annoyed, because like I make a trip to DC.
Yeah.
In the middle of the day, not
Right.
out at the duck. So aside from that, we are my church is in their anniversary. April is our anniversary month, so 43
Nice.
years. And I was at church all day yesterday, like all day. Oh my goodness, all day. I was there all day yesterday. So like I'm
Oh,
tired, and it's been a lot going on. It feels like last week was kind of rapid fire. So today I slowed it down a bit. Thankful and grateful that I was able to do that. Last week was also disappointing. A lot of disappointing news in so many different ways. It's just one of those moments in time where things are really tight and connected. So when something doesn't pan out, there is a long domino effect. So, I'm just trying to maneuver and keep my sanity at the same time.
yeah. I think we I think collectively, I think we are all in that, like, I think there is a level of exhaustion
Mhm.
um and hope seems to be kind of like in a lot of ways not so hopeful, because hope is painful.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, because it forces you to really have to take yourself out of the equation in so many ways and really trust that um that you're really kept by God.
Mhm.
Um there was a let me find it. Okay, so I have learned that I can't multitask the way I want to.
Mhm.
So I want to find this quote from Esau McCauley, who's an author, and he writes sometime for the New York Times, and
Okay.
he wrote an op-ed around, like, in between the shooting in Nashville, then Louisville, and then the vote the vote to dismiss the two representatives in Tennessee, the
Mhm.
two Justins.
Mhm.
And he talked about hope, and I wanna lift that quote up real quick. Hold on. So while I'm looking, you can keep talking, because
Yeah, yeah. Ah,
but it
lately,
goes to my point.
when you ever, so I like body work, right? Uh, I'm actually getting certified for stretching and flexibility training. And I will combine that with my work that I do with trauma. The body is very interesting. One day I I sighed, but I sighed with like my entire being. Like, and Halo was like, "Mommy, are you okay?" And I was like, "You got to try that. It feels really good." And so,
Right.
we're in the car. I was just like, and so she does it, and she's like, "That was different. That was different." And now it's kind of become a habit, and so it's strange for people. I'm gonna try my best not to do it on the show tonight. I don't think I did it last week. I don't think I did it. It's been a very challenging few weeks. Um, it's been I just feel like challenging is not even a sufficient word. But that sigh, I want you, before the show is over, I like for you to join me in doing it and then just tell me how you feel.
Okay. So the quote is, I have never been a big fan of hope. It's a demanding emotion that insists on changing you. Hope pulls out Hope pulls you out of yourself and into the world, forcing you to believe more is possible. Hate is a much less insistent master. It asks you only to loathe. It is quite happy to have you to itself and doesn't ask you to go anywhere.
Mhm.
I was just like, wow.
So what do we deduce from that though? Or are we not deducing anything? Or are we just taking what we want out of it?
Well, I have to, for me, it is hard, but I also, I think about the old hymn, my hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness.
That's an old hymn. I thought that was a Hezekiah song.
No, no.
You know where I
No,
stand on the music. Everything's new to me.
no.
I feel like, oh, that's old. Okay. No, I didn't know. Yeah, yeah. I I agree with his description of it. Um, not the not being a fan part, because all right, so are you a fan of hate? But it is true. And hope is also, it requires, I think it requires a lot. Maybe not a lot, but it requires an investment that a long-term investment at that. And a lot of people are just not willing to give that energy because it's easy to not have hope. I'm around pessimistic people. I'm so bothered and confused. Like, I gotta get out of there. Oh my God, I gotta go, I gotta go. I don't understand what you guys are
Right.
saying. Why? Just like my soul is vexed. I have to leave. So it's a matter, we understand choice and how that works, compelling yourself to choose. It's not that difficult. But for a lot of people, they just don't feel that they have the power to change their perspective. And for me personally, and I would say clinically, it's one of the most depressing things to be around. Like, I have to, once the session is over, or if it's therapy, or if it's a personal conversation. If it's a personal conversation, it's probably not going to end the way they wanted it to, because I have more freedom to say things unethically. But either way, I kind of just go into like this immediate prayer, because we ain't receiving them vibes over here. It's yeah. I just have never been easy to, I guess I'm stubborn in that, right? I don't know. It's regardless of, and I'm almost challenged to say this out loud, Shani. I want you to understand that the tribulation, because I am no longer in a trial. I am in a tribulation.
Mhm.
Tribulation that I am currently experiencing does not need to get any harder. But I will say, sometimes people feel like when you have hope is because you've never experienced anything, traumatic or horrible, or like your life is just great. And it's like, no, it's a choice. It is a choice. And to be honest, I do think it's a gift from God, but my mother instilled that in me. But believe it or not, like as a young child, that was something that she would always say. You can choose. You can choose. She pregnant, we living in the car. She still was like, no, life does not suck. This sucks, but life doesn't suck, right? It's circumstantial. And I would say that all of my parents, because you guys know that I was blessed with more than two parents. So all of my parents, I think, were major in that way, and like, hey, the power of choice, just really explaining that and exemplifying that, and me understanding what that meant from a very early age. And I cannot say that I grew up with pessimistic people. My family, I mean, as broke as a joke as we were, like we didn't have a whole lot. We were still not like dark ducks. It was no room for that. As a matter of fact, when people started complaining, it was like, you can go back, go. We're not doing that over here. Like we have enough. We have enough to be concerned about. We have enough that we're dealing with. We're not going into no complaining spirit, because you can't shake that joker off. He like to come, he like to stay, get real comfortable, right? You got to evict him, and even then he's disobedient, so we don't welcome him. we don't invite him, we don't summon him. Shut up. Say it differently. And so even if I find myself in a like a self-pity type situation, it's weird. It sounds weird. And people have told me it sounds weird. They're like, are you feeling bad for yourself? Because I'm not really sure which way you're going. Like 1 minute you sound sad, but the next minute you sound very hopeful. Yes. The reality of the situation is sad or hard or it sucks. Am I hopeful? I sure am. I am both. So the description he gave, I feel like it's right on point, but I still choose it, because the other way is just horrible. That's how I feel about it. Right. The other way is like, you can't come back from that.
You can't come back from that. And I just feel like everything is a choice, right? Choosing joy is a choice, which we touched on last week, right? Choosing hope is a choice. Choosing to love rather than hate is a choice. All of those, it is a choice, and it is, it's also about a transforming of our mind and our thoughts. Yes. Like, what are we choosing to think about, right? Like the scripture tells us, whatever is pure and holy and just and right and praiseworthy, think of those things, right?
Absolutely.
But I think when we are in a season of tribulation, it is so hard to think of those things.
I agree. I don't disagree with that. I feel that it is important for people to get into practice of rearranging, it's like watch your mouth. Really. My daughter sometimes gets annoyed, but I think she is kind of getting to a point where it's expected. I make her reframe some things often. If I don't like how it sounded when it came out, it's not me being controlling or anything like that. I want her to understand the power that her tongue has. I want her to understand that, especially as a believer. I need her to understand that because she has a long way to go, right? God willing, she has a long way to go. She's 9 years old. And so if you start off now with the I can't, I'll never will, I don't know how, just again, I'm just like, oh, no, no, we're not doing that. And so I will prompt her to think, okay, hey, how can we say that differently where we are setting an expectation of positivity, where we are setting an expectation of, you know, prevailing because that's the promise that we were given. And I need you to always keep that in the forefront, regardless of what things look like. You're a winner, you're a conqueror, you're going to prevail, we have the victory. So don't let this setback set you up for failure, because that's the trick of the enemy. So where everyone else around you might be saying something different or acting differently, I need you to reframe. You can absolutely acknowledge any current emotion or feeling, because I also want her to have emotional intelligence is important. It's very important, but I also need her to understand, even with that, you need to be intentional. And so it's a work in progress, as it is with me. I don't know if you ever fully arrive in that arena, but it's something that I diligently work on. Other people are not so receptive because I think there's just a lack of understanding of the importance. And when it's not a lack of understanding, then it's a lack of faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, a lack of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Say more.
Well, the belief of it, right? So when we do understand, but you still haven't changed it, you still, you kind of dismiss it. I won't say still haven't changed it, because that's a whole human process there. But when we talk about power of the tongue, right? Life or death, when we talk about intentionality, there are a lot of people, when we talk about hope, there's just a lot of people, they understand completely. They don't believe. They're like, that's not changing. And so then it won't change. And that sounds like such a, like a fantasy world for them, like a fairy tale, because they haven't experienced their own power yet, or they didn't know that they were experiencing their own power. Maybe it didn't happen consistently enough or powerfully enough, but I'll change impactfully enough to realize, oh, whoa, I created that, right? Or God allowed that to happen through me. It's hard for people to really understand the power that they have because they don't believe it. They're just walking on through, just whatever happens, happens. I have no control over that. And when you try to get people to understand that their perspective and their disposition is absolutely controllable, and the biggest way that it is controlled is from what comes out of your mouth, right? Our thought process is our thought process. You can end it there. It's not the easiest thing to stop a thought from coming into your mind, right? Because it usually there by the time you noticed it. Right? It's just like something happened and like, whoo, it's just like nanosecond of a process. But that is something that I work with, some clients on, like, yeah, you can change your thoughts too. It's like it's a secular thing. That's what it is. It's a cycle. And so once you disrupt the cycle and create a new cycle, then yeah, you can prevent bad thoughts too, because your
Right.
disposition has changed. It's no longer your nature. A bad thought, you're like, I don't know what that means. Right? It's just, it's not that thing that you do anymore. And so when people are experiencing, a streak of unfavorable results, they are hard pressed to, first of all, there's some satisfaction in, and I know people are going to at me for this, and it's okay. But there, in the counseling world, we ask, what do you get from that behavior? So when
Mm.
a person refuses to change their outlook or how they say things, like this is becoming a pattern now. I start asking, well, what do you get out of that negative thinking? Help me understand. It
Oh,
serves
can I
a
borrow
purpose.
that? Can I borrow that? 'Cause
Absolutely.
it's a few people that I need to ask that question to.
I mean, I like asking questions. That is my style. I don't know what it's called or what it isn't, but that is how I do therapy, because questions prompt us to, to just kind
To
of
actually
back
think.
and exactly. And
It
so,
doesn't really, yeah, it reminds me, I was just having a conversation earlier with a friend, and we were talking about, a lot of times people, they assume so much information, right?
yeah.
We were talking on a different topic, but it's like, why do you think that, right? And then when you start to ask the clarifying questions, they don't have a reason why they believe that, or
Mm-hmm.
why they stand on that position.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like always, I I I am a clarity seeking person as well. I do a lot of clarity seeking and questions in coaching
Mm-hmm.
when well, why did you make that decision? Or
Mm-hmm.
why do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
Or what brought you to that conclusion?
Right.
But no, I like that. Like, why are you thinking that way?
Yeah, it's it's a different way of asking, maybe, how does that help you? Because I was told that I'm a smart aleck when I say that. But or
It's a
I'll
direct
say, how's that
question
working
though.
out, right? How's that working out for you?
Right.
It's a legitimate question. Maybe I was being a little sarcastic when I asked you, but like, I want an answer. Like Halo and I have this conversation often. I'm like, I ask you a question, I do want an answer. It's not rhetorical, because I
Mhm.
want you to become, a master of your own thought process. Like let's follow this from A to Z or wherever it lands. But when people are dead set, like we can walk through and point out how their way of thinking is not working for them, and they still don't want to change it, right? And so then I asked them, well, how does it work for you? There's a benefit to you, see it beneficial. Help me understand the benefit. And usually there is some resistance, because that is, I'm requiring something of you. I'm requiring you to no longer be an autopilot. Now you have to manually process things. It's no longer, status quo. It is, you got to dig in there a little bit and figure out where you created this narrative, or where you received you inherited something, or you created it, or you added to what was inherited, but you ain't got to keep it if it don't work for you. And that's what people don't
That
understand.
part.
They
Right.
don't understand that. It's always, well, my mama, my grandmother, but bump them. What about you?
Right. What about you?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was so funny. When I first started therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
For 3 weeks in a row, I used to go to therapy every Wednesday. Started after when I first separated. So it was like 6 years ago when I started. And for 3 weeks in a row, Mika, I told the story of my first date with my ex-husband. right? And how I waited there for 4 hours before he showed up. Because this is like before he didn't have a cell phone. Long story, right? He came, he had a dirty shirt on, right? Like, I mean, it was red flags galore, right? But I don't know, in my vision, they looked kind of pink or fuchsia, right? Like they didn't look red, right? Like I was like really
Funny.
I'm being funny because it was like, it's not a red, it's not crimson. It's like, so and on at week 3, she finally cut me off, right?
Okay.
My therapist finally cut me off, and she was like, why we keep going back there? What is there that you need to release? What she said, because the date was at Jasper's, right? And she said, do we need to go back to Jasper's so you can right? She was, and I just sat there.
Like picture
I
it.
sat there and just like awe, like she is absolutely right. Because why do I keep bringing this up?
Yeah.
Right.
And, sometimes it's not intentional. We don't always recognize that we haven't healed from something or that something still bothers us. And something bothering you doesn't mean that you're not healed. I want people to understand that. Being triggered doesn't mean that you're not healed. Folks kind of confuse that. It's scars leave scar tissue. So if I'm rubbing on my skin and I go over a scar that I have, thoughts of how I got that scar might pop up. It doesn't mean that, I'm gonna use proper English now. It does not mean that, I'm still bothered by this thing. I have a bite mark. I got bit by a dog when I was like 10. I think I was 10. Yeah, I was 10. It's on my leg. It's on my thigh. And I touch this place often. And I want to say probably every 20 times I'm like, that stupid dog. You bit me for no reason. Crazy. But I had a small dog. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like I'm afraid of dogs. I'm bothered by dogs. Just that dog. I'm on, he bit me. He messed up my beautiful skin and my leg. But it's a scar and it's there. And I notice it, right? And that's just how life is. So, but if I, like in your case, when we keep reviewing things, something hasn't been completed. We didn't wrap up the process of something. And it is a good question. Hopefully, she wasn't being judgmental, but
no,
good. So
she got my life together. I have to.
So you needed that kind of push.
I needed that. I needed to be like, why are we going back to 2002? We are in 2017.
Yes.
Right? And for some reason, I wanted to start there, which it was necessary. I'm not going to go into the whole drawn out process.
I just have like a lot of things that in my mind too.
But what
like I want to process it with you.
But what it did for me, right? Because at the end of the day, you can't change other people. You can only change yourself. Right. And what it did, I had to let go of my disappointment with myself.
Yeah. And
I kept going back there because it was a self thing, right? It was a self thing, totally, right? Like I stayed for 4 hours. Nobody made me do that.
Right.
Right? No, nobody made me do that. I chose to sit there and look at that dirty shirt for a whole hour, right? And like excuse it away. Like, come bring me your best.
You chose to see something. So, right. And I would say, what did you get out of that? And I have a whole lot of ideas. I'm using, hyperbole, but it usually is a self thing. I feel like it's almost always a self thing, but I like to stay away from superlatives. I haven't lived long enough and I won't live long enough to say always. So I can't say it's always a self thing, but I will say I'm usually pretty certain it's a self thing, right? Why we get hung up on things, why we can't let it go, why we're so bothered by things. It's usually
Yeah.
a self thing. It's some form of guilt, it's some form of shame, or both.
Yeah.
And we haven't figured out how to forgive ourselves for the flub, right?
Yeah.
Also, we haven't figured out how to accept that that was something that had to happen in our lives to get where we got to get to. That's the other part of it. Acceptance is probably even harder than forgiveness. At least on my side of the block, it is. I'm like, yo, I forgive all day. I don't know about accepting though. You telling
Right.
me that that had to happen for this to happen? Whew, it was no other way. None. Like
Right.
no other. You pulled out the pen and you got into your scientific mode. We was writing all these equations and the probability and flipping a die. Like there was no other way. An inside joke just popped in my head. It's like we think about children. Our children. If you are a believer, they're here. Ain't no mistakes, right? There are no mistakes. And so sometimes we be like, so I had to have my child was supposed to be here, right? So you're telling me I was supposed to have my child. I couldn't have this child with anybody else. It had to have been with him or her.
Right.
It was nobody else that could have produced, because I pretty much see all me and my child anyway. So I'm thinking, regardless of who I co-created with, I would have still got the same child. Nobody else could do this but this person. Okay, right? Like we have
Right.
strong feelings about it. So acceptance can be really difficult, and not accepting it is the holdup.
Yeah.
Blocking your blessing. Ain't a daggone thing you can do about it, because none of us have time machines, right? We can't go back and do or undo. And so this is why intentionality is really important, because living with the regret is heavy. It's heavy.
And it's too, and it stops you from living. How about that? Because you're not really living. You're living with regret, but are you really living?
Nope.
Right? Because you always I will never forget. Okay, so for those that don't know me, I love a good speech.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a commencement speech, even better, right? I love acceptance speeches, a good speech. And so I remember when Rihanna was graduating 8th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and the commencement keynoter gave a he said, risk it all.
Mm-hmm.
Take risk while the sooner the better.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never want to be in a situation as you get older in life where you become part of the woulda, shoulda, couldas.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
And because there's so many people my age, and I'm older than you, past my age, that will sit there and be woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are things I definitely regret. I'm not going to sit there and say every decision I made in my life was a great one. But what I will say is that God turned every situation
Mm-hmm.
and every decision I made into a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that would have happened without my relationship with God, honestly. So that falls under the grace category, because there are times I can give you a list. I could put them in categories. I should have died that day.
Right.
Off a decision that I made, not even just life or, accident. right?
Mhm.
I made a decision to put my life in danger, right? Like I made a decision to go there. I made a decision. So all those things, grace and mercy followed me,
Mhm.
right? And so yes, but I still wouldn't change. I probably wouldn't change the path and the trajectory of my life. I was
Mhm.
sharing with another friend earlier about when I was in this season of like literally every single job, every single opportunity that I went after was a no, right?
Mhm.
Every single one, right? And they are in that season now where, in between jobs and just fighting to stay hopeful,
Mhm.
right? There is a fight to just stay hopeful because they are thinking of all the responsibilities that they have, right?
Mhm.
And for me to be in that situation less than 5 years ago, right? And offering encouragement, I feel like encouragement, when you can offer someone a word and encouragement because you've been through it,
Mhm.
is that much, it's it's that much sweeter for me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, I'm not just telling you this because this is some great Christian thing to say. Child, I'm telling you this because I've been there
Mhm.
and I know what I'm talking about. You will get on the other side. I've
Mhm.
been there.
Mhm.
I've been through the 55 no's. I've been there.
Yeah.
So
Hope
hope.
is a choice
Can I just tell
above
you,
everything else.
Mika, how I love how we have no idea what we're going to talk about until we hit the button to go live.
Yeah.
I'm like, so shout out to Nicole. Thank you for watching. Donna, thank you for watching. Felicia, thank you. Big B, thank you for watching. Brian's watching. So I every time we come on the show, we log in, we pray before we even do anything, because we are praying. This is a praying show. And I say, Mika, it's just us tonight. We got a cancellation. And I
Mhm.
think back 7 years, like we started this thing, we started on this journey back in 2016. And 2016, I used to, y'all, I'd be sitting up there hyperventilating and crying when a guest would cancel. And today I'm like, what we gonna talk about, Mika? I don't know yet. And then we just start talking and we have content for a whole hour. I love that about us.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we earned it. I don't know any other way to say it. We earned it. You always be like, thank you for rocking with me. And I'd be like in my head, thank you for not firing me after the first month.
No,
Ah,
why
because
fire? I can't even pick you. This is your
I just
I appreciate you.
for me, I don't know if I ever shared it with you in the beginning. So something that I have struggled with, I believe I'm out of it. I believe like I'm done with that part of it. I know who I am, right? And I know how I express, how I learn, how I feel, right? I emote. Not always aware of how that comes out. Sometimes I feel like I'm animated, as some other person might be like, no, you were kind of flat. Okay. Are you sure? So in the beginning, we were on radio and people have feedback. I'll say it that way.
Yeah,
So
they
for
did.
me, it was your show, right? And I think initially, we know a person connected us.
Right.
Shannon connected us. And I feel like until someone gives me the okay, right, to be myself, to be my creative self or whatever, then I'm like trying to to fall in with what's already there. So I felt like, okay, this is her show and this is how it is. And so I got to be like this. And it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe the third year, once you and I started talking on a more personal level, just
Yeah.
kind of hanging out and getting to know each other. I remember you saying to me, just be yourself and do what you do. And it was like, ding, ding, ding. It
Right. You know,
was so
I
weird.
appreciate you saying that, because I always felt like I knew it was my show, right?
Mhm,
But I knew that you were in school, you had a toddler. Like, I didn't want you to make it feel, I didn't want this to feel like work, right?
mhm,
And I would get, the feedback was horrible, y'all. Like, it would be like, Mika is boring. She just didn't seem like she wanted to come on the show. And
mhm,
for the people that I didn't know, I ignored, right?
mhm.
My friends, I'm like, no, she's really cool. Like, Mika is cool. She just got a lot. I mean, she's like in school, she's got a full caseload,
I care about,
right?
we don't care
And
about that.
I'm like defending you. And I think what helped us though is because I learned how to be a leader
Mhm,
in this space, right? And I wanted to be a leader that brought out the best in people
mhm,
and tap into that, right? And I'm like, and I remember when we first had lunch and I just saw a whole different side of you. And
mhm.
I'm like, can you bring that to the show?
Right.
Like,
And
can you bring that? Like, can you bring that energy to the show? And then when we left radio and went video,
mhm,
like and then all those same people now, the same people that used to say you were boring back in
mhm.
2016 was like, y'all have amazing chemistry. Y'all,
Right.
oh my goodness, you're so awesome. I'm like, just trust me. I got this. It's
What
so funny.
the journey has taught me a lot. And one of the things that I remember learning about myself was that I had a lot of roles in so many different places that I found it difficult to maintain like my core passion, if that makes sense. So just kind of falling into other people's expectations, I think is the phrase that I'm gonna stick with. So for one, I worked for the military for a while. And when we started, I was working for the military. And then I was working for one of those 3-letter acronyms. And like all of that requires you, to kind of be here with it, right? Just a little, we don't have no feelings. We just give it to you straight, no emotions
Right.
involved. And then you go here and you got to be that, and you go here and you got to be that. And I know for a while I just kind of felt stifled in myself. I was like, I didn't have experience being on any type of radio show, blog, anything like that. And I think I allowed myself to be too open to everyone else's like
Opinion.
guidance.
Mhm.
Well, you got
Yeah.
to do it like this because it's this, right? It's a
Right.
podcast or it's a blog or it's this, and you're on camera and people can see you and you can't touch your face and you have to sit up and don't laugh too hard, and I have a crazy laugh anyway, right? So it was like trying to hold all that in. You do just come out. It's like that episode of Friends where Chandler wants to take they want to do engagement announcements, and Chandler is laughing. As soon as the camera guy says, all right,
Right.
because he hears, all these things in the back, sit up straight. This is like, it was a lot of pressure. That's the word that I've been looking for. It was a lot of pressure. And so you just kind of, you don't know what to do. So you let it all go. And when you let it all go, it's flat, right? It's like, and the word acceptance, I also had to accept that I'm who I am.
Yeah.
And because sometimes we want something so bad, we'll force it. And I really got to the point, not because of the show, just in my life, I'd gotten to the point where I was like, you know what? If they don't want me, they don't want me. I am okay with that, because I can't give what I'm supposed to give if I'm not my authentic self.
Absolutely.
And it's so important for me to always be my authentic self that I had to realize I was forcing opportunities, right? I was forcing things that, like, it was okay. It was supposed to have been a learning experience, but I turned it into something else, maybe for anxiety, maybe for a desire of wanting to be accepted. I don't know all the answers. I do know there were things that I wanted, and maybe they wanted, some things that I can offer them, but they didn't want it the way that I had to give it. And when somebody doesn't want you, that doesn't always feel good. It can be confusing, right? It can be sad. It can be a whole lot of different things. And so it was like, that's what I was dealing with for a while. And even so, I like I said, it wasn't the show that had me feeling that way. It was a show that had me realize what I was dealing with, because I was just like, well, I'm not a dry person. So how is all of this in here coming out dry? It's like, I was like, I don't understand. What is getting lost in translation? It's like when I was younger, people, oh, she got attitude, and I'm like, oh, she's mean. There's not a mean bone in my body, and anybody that knows me will tell you that. And so you have to ask myself, though, like, okay, so what am I displaying that? And for a lot of times it doesn't have anything to do with me. It's about that person. But when you hear something, it should spark something in you to make you at least reflect, like, okay, am I keeping it 100? Is there something that I would need to work on, improve, or whatever? And so that's where it was. And so I'm grateful for all of that. It's not easy hearing somebody, say you're boring or you're dry or whatever, especially, I don't know if boring people feel like they're boring. Maybe it's just not the audience, right? I don't know if anybody's actually boring. I think they're just not in front of the proper platform for them, right? For their sense of personality. But
no, there are boring people in the world.
Okay.
It's some.
So I wonder if they know that they're boring, right? Like, does a boring person say, I know I'm boring? It's like, but in my soul, I was like, I'm not boring. I've never, ever been told that I'm boring. In my 8th grade yearbook, my 8th grade English teacher said, I'm going to miss this witty personality. It's like, so I know I ain't boring.
Right. So
but I had to figure it out.
Yeah. And I think for me also, like that whole, that those first couple seasons were all about, me showing up and being this leader that I know God had called me to be, because I'm like, why I gotta lead? Why I gotta tell people, right? And it really was about how did I want to show up as a leader too? Like, I don't want to be the status quo leader. right? I don't want people to do it my way. Do it your way, because there's room, right? There's room for it all. So,
and
thank you for rocking with me.
Yeah, I like being here. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about the importance of building a relationship, and I enjoy, I enjoy being able to be a part of this ministry. It's helped me mature, just in that way, and understanding the different forms of ministry as well.
Yeah.
And because like I said, it's something about, I've always felt like I was different. And I think, the struggle of trying to conform for acceptance is kind of natural for people, like for children, right? For younger people. And as I got older, you have this expectation that you'll be accepted in certain spaces. And when you're not even accepted there, it's like, it's challenging. It challenges, I will make this personal, challenge me to my core, to where I really had to say, like I was feeling sad, I was feeling bad about myself, and I had to just kind of put it before God and was like, is there something so different, so off-putting, that I'm not worthy of, fill in the blank? And it was like, nope, not even a little bit. And don't you ever ask me that again. Right? Like that was the response that I got. And so, like I said, you got to get in front of you have to be in front of the audience that you're supposed to be in front of. And in order to do that in ministry, you got to let God lead you there. And so that's what it was. And that confidence had been building over the years, because it was like, I feel this. Whenever we would log on, I would say maybe the first 5 minutes of the show, I would feel like, I don't know, who's she gonna have on the show today? Oh my God, they're a doctor. Oh my goodness, they're this, like these titles and statuses and all that stuff. And I would have to like prompt myself, okay, Tamika, so what? Right? Like, do what you were sent to do.
Right.
But I had to believe that I was sent to do it. I had to believe that this was a part of my ministry as well. And that's what it was. At first, I don't think I did. I felt like, nah, it's no way. And then it was like, yeah, it is. Of course it is. Do it. Absolutely. And once I accepted that, the confidence was like, okay. And then it translated. So
it translated. Yeah. I used to get intimidated too. I'd be like, and then I'm not gonna lie, like I would get intimidated, and then the Holy Spirit would be like, child,
exactly,
don't even worry about that. Right? Like,
exactly,
because like the resume would be totally different from what appeared, and maybe they were going through the same thing, if you get what I'm saying, right? I do. And it's, not knocking, I think, every single guest, right? But you gotta look beyond the paper.
Yeah. And we've had some guests on the show that has been so encouraging.
Yes.
So motivating. And so supportive, and like at the right time, like when it was so needed, it was just like, oh my goodness.
Yes. Woo. Like, thank you. Thank you for blessing me. Yeah,
absolutely. I think I cried on one of them shows.
We're bringing back a show favorite. My friend Ty Scott, she's a Christian rapper and poet, and it is National Poetry Month.
Is it?
Yep.
King? Okay, I was like, yep. All right,
gotcha. Her stage name is Scott, but Ty Scott King.
Okay.
It's national. April is National Poetry Month.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna get her to drop some spoken word for us next
I've been
Monday.
learning so much, Shani. And it kind of makes sense. It's National Poetry Month. Okay. It is April. April has come and gone. April
It
is
it has.
today's
Yep.
17th. I like Ty. She's very talented.
Yes, and just really dope. And I love her spirit.
Mhm.
So she's got a message.
What was that day?
I think we next Monday, the
Okay.
24th.
Next week. Got you.
I think the last time they were on, her and her husband were on, because they have a ministry called Love Beats Marriage, BEATS.
Mm-hmm.
So they talk about music,
Did I miss
love,
that show?
marriage. It was like it started coming on during pandemic. I don't know if they're still active, but we'll ask her next Monday.
No, you said the last time she was on, they were on. Did I miss that show for us?
I thought you were on. I mean, it was the middle of pandemic, so I thought you were on.
Okay.
You didn't miss too many episodes. We
Okay.
were on lockdown.
Yes,
We wasn't going nowhere.
I do remember her. Absolutely. I remember. Like I remember the show. Because she had just moved, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I was gonna say I'll process this with you later off air. Yeah, I don't say
That's
anything
fine.
I'm not supposed to be saying.
The Sharing with Shani Show highlights ordinary people working for an extraordinary God, sharing love, light, and life. Thank you so much for all of you that listened and joined in today. Your mama was on. Mika, did you see that?
No, I saw that she liked something, but I didn't see her be on.
Yeah.
Hi, mommy.
Mika's mama was on. Thank you. Claudia was watching. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the people that tuned in and stayed on and hopped off. And we'll watch the replay. Thank you so much. We appreciate
Yeah, when you guys watch the replay, let us know. Like, hashtag replay. It still helps.
Yes.
It is for people that it helped. This is not about likes. All right. I feel the need to say this. So it's not about likes, because we both feel that this is a ministry. I feel that is important, that it gets in front of the people who need it. And so you can help that by keeping it active in the algorithm. Yes, that word. So even during the replay, you can hashtag replay, you can still share it, and you can still comment. All right. We see that it helps it stay active, and it helps it show up in other people's feeds where maybe they would have missed it before. So for those of you who will watch the replay, let us know. I feel like we're both responsive. Yes, even after the fact, it'll show us that somebody has left a comment even after we have done streaming. So let us know that y'all watching it, that you're watching a replay, and where you're watching it from. That's helpful too.
Yes.
I like to know like where we are being watched from now. So like where we started and like where we are. I imagine we are more than international. Is that a thing? Multi-international. I'm making up stuff over here. multiple countries. Multi-international. Absolutely. It's more than one national. Y'all know what I mean?
I mean, it's no worse than when I was like 300 is, what did I say?
That was funny.
I was like 365 Mondays.
It's gonna be funny. It's always gonna be funny.
And my girl Kazaya was like, I thought it was only 52.
You made everybody think on that one though. He's like, wait.
Like it was also, I blame it on COVID. I had COVID brain. I was like, yeah, and I was just as confident as I want to be. 352 Mondays.
Yeah, is you know, when you just your information gets blurred together, it's okay. It is okay. But that's why it made us think, because you're like, it's 52 weeks and 365 days. So it sounded familiar, but some
Right.
wasn't quite right. So, you know, and also, you know, when you're speaking to another intelligent person, you're not expecting that. That's the thing, right? It was a flub. So it's just like, wait, no, that's not. I don't. That's not correct. So I had to think.
And I think what, people, thank you. Alfred is watching live from Richmond, Virginia. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I the funny thing is because I don't subscribe to perfectionism. So one of the
Mhm.
things, we've always been live, right? I'm not here for
Absolutely.
no daggone. Let's record. Let's take out the flubs. No, this is what you're gonna get. You're gonna get.
It's funner this way.
It's right. It's gooder this way.
Better this way.
It's
Because we
more
are
better.
humans, and humans are not perfect.
That's like when and I definitely have to go after this point, but I used to when I coach pastors, and they're like, so like they have to do everything perfect, right?
So much
And
pressure.
I'm like, and I really think COVID brought out the perfectionism,
Yeah.
right? In this really weird, warped way, because I'm like, what did you do when you were live and you messed up in your sermon?
Cut. Take it
Nothing.
off. Cancel.
It's right. That you going back and spending like hours editing a sermon to put on social media. And you do know that the people that you're ministering to are not perfect either. They're not looking for a perfect pastor.
Yeah.
They're looking for a savior. Point them to a savior.
Right. You just be the vessel. That's it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole nother
So
thing. So
it's a whole nother show, right? So
it's a lot of pressure. I
right,
will
it
say
is.
this: social media does have a lot to do with that. The fear of being a meme, right? Like just living as a meme forever is a big thing, because you know the internet wins a lot. And nobody wants to see that side of themselves, right, turned in, you know, just some honest mistake turned into something that's going to last forever, and people hold it against you and blah blah blah. But I feel like, you
I
know,
get it.
what are you going to do about it?
I do get that. I
Yeah.
understand that.
If you were called to lead a ministry, you got to do it. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
All right, Shani, thank you
All
for
right, Mika. Love
bringing
you.
some light
All
on Monday.
right. See you next Monday.
Yes, ma'am.
Peace.